Here's something you might not believe. The average American today owns over 300,000 items. Shoes we forget in closets, gadgets buried in drawers, decorations boxed up in garages. But your grandmother? She probably managed her entire home with less than 10,000. And somehow, it never felt bare or lacking. It felt alive, full of comfort, not clutter. Walk into Grandma's home and you could almost hear the rhythm of her routines, the clock ticking softly, the scent of fresh coffee, a chair by the window waiting for conversation. There was warmth in her simplicity. Every item had a reason, a story, and a home of its own. She didn't hoard, she curated her life, quietly, intentionally, without ever calling it decluttering. That's where we meet Marjorie Donovan, or as her family calls her, Grandma Midge. She's 72, a retired school librarian from Georgia, the kind of woman who folds her dish towels in perfect thirds and keeps her garden shears sharper than her memory of yesterday's weather. Her secret isn't about storage bins or labeling systems, it's about rhythms and respect, for space, for time, for herself. Midge says, "I learned early that my home reflects how peaceful my mind is. I keep both tidy." And she's right. Today, we'll uncover how her forgotten habits, the ones that shape generations, can bring back calm to your life right now. But before we get into it, if this already feels like the kind of calm your heart's been missing, don't just tap like, hit that hype button. It's YouTube's way of lifting senior voices higher. You get 3 free hypes each week, and every one helps more people over 60 find our circle of wisdom, warmth, and light. Habit 1. One in, one out, the living balance. Grandma Midge always says this habit saved her, not from clutter, but from the quiet weight that clutter brings. "If I bring in a new pair of shoes, I send one out," she says, her voice calm, her eyes sure. It's not a rule she follows for discipline, it's a rhythm she keeps for peace. There was a time her closets were so full she could barely slide the doors closed. Each drawer sighed under old memories, each shelf crowded with the echoes of decades, things she didn't hate but no longer needed. She used to tell herself they didn't matter, that she could live around them. But one morning, as she tried to reach for her favorite sweater buried behind a stack of others, her shoulder ached, and she suddenly realized how her things were quietly asking more of her than they gave back. "I was tired," she admits. Not of life, of carrying it all. That was when she began her quiet rule, one thing in, one thing out. It began the same way most good changes do, with something small and gentle. A new coffee mug came in, one went to her neighbor. A cardigan she loved arrived, another, once loved, went to the donation bin. It wasn't dramatic. There were no trash bags or weekend cleanouts. It was a slow exhale, a steady return to balance. Within a few months, her home started to breathe again. She noticed light falling differently on open surfaces, drawers that closed easily, air moving freely through rooms that once felt heavy. "It's like my home finally sighed with relief," she says. And I did too. But what makes this habit special isn't its simplicity, it's its kindness. It doesn't shame or rush. It respects time, emotion, and change. For Midge, every exchange is a small conversation between who she was and who she is now. Each time she lets go of something, she thanks it for its season. Each time she welcomes something new, she asks herself if it truly belongs. If it doesn't make life easier or happier, she says, then it doesn't need to come in. That small question has changed her shopping, her mindset, and her peace of mind. She doesn't buy out of habit anymore. She buys with intention, and that's made her world simpler in the best way. There's also generosity woven into her rhythm. She calls it sharing forward. When she lets something go, it never feels like loss, it feels like continuation. Her extra winter coat warms a church volunteer now. Her old teapot lives in her granddaughter's kitchen. "Nothing I love ever really leaves," she says with a soft laugh. "It just finds a new life." Letting go has become her quiet act of giving, and it's made her house not just tidier, but kinder. The difference this makes in her daily life is almost invisible until you live it. Less to lift, dust, wash, or sort means less strain on her body, fewer falls, and more time to enjoy what truly matters. "When you get older, energy is gold," she says. "I spend mine on living, not managing." And there's something profound in that. She's found independence not by having control over things, but by choosing which things deserve her care. Now, when she sits in her living room, sunlight warm across an uncluttered table, her cat curled by her feet, she feels it in her chest, ease. There's air where weight used to be, quiet where tension used to hum. It's not about having less, she says softly. It's about having what fits the life I live now. Then she leans back, smiling, and adds, balance doesn't come from effort, it comes from grace. One choice, one moment, one thing in, one thing out. Habit 2. The 10-minute farewell walk. Every night before bed, Grandma Midge takes what she lovingly calls her farewell walk. It's not exercise, not cleaning, not a chore, it's her quiet ritual of closure. She moves slowly through her home, room by room, letting her fingertips brush the edges of the life she's built. She straightens a cushion here, folds a blanket there, checks that the stove is off, that the mail is stacked neatly by the door. But what she's really doing is something deeper. She's saying goodbye to the day with gentleness. It's how I tell myself everything's in its place, she says. And that I did enough today. The habit began years ago, after knee surgery, when her physical therapist suggested short evening walks to keep her joints from stiffening. At first, she used a walker and would just make a slow lap through her living room before heading to bed. But over time, she realized that those 10 quiet minutes were doing more for her mind than her legs. She noticed the way her shoulders relaxed when she turned out the lights, how her thoughts softened when the house grew still. That simple practice became something sacred, part gratitude, part grace, part goodbye. The older you get, she says, the more peace you find in finishing things well, even a day. Now, it's part of her nightly rhythm. She walks barefoot in her slippers, letting the cool floor remind her she's still here, still steady. She doesn't rush. The farewell walk isn't about tidying up, it's about easing down. As she goes, she picks up the little things that would otherwise wait for morning. The book she left open, a pair of reading glasses on the armrest, a cup beside the sink. 10 minutes of calm attention keeps her home from slipping into disarray, but more importantly, it keeps her heart from carrying unfinished business into her dreams. She says, it's like I tuck the house in before I tuck myself in. The beauty of this habit is that it turns ordinary maintenance into mindfulness. Seniors often carry invisible lists in their heads, the medicine to take, the dishes to wash, the letter to send. The farewell walk wipes that list clean. It's a pause that says, today was enough. The next morning, her home greets her quietly, no clutter, no half-done chores, no reminders of yesterday's rush. Just stillness, order, and the soft promise of a new day. It makes waking up easier, she says. There's no noise waiting to grab me. I get to start fresh, even before the coffee's ready. And though it began as a way to stay mobile, it's become an emotional anchor. Those 10 minutes are where reflection happens. Sometimes she whispers a prayer, sometimes she hums a song from her childhood. She notices the little joys, how the moonlight hits her kitchen counter, how the air cools as night settles. She often pauses by her photo wall, running her fingers along the frames, murmuring a quiet goodnight to the faces that made her who she is. That small act connects her to both the past and the present, a gentle balance between remembering and releasing. For older adults, the farewell walk is more than a ritual, it's a gift of closure. It prevents clutter from creeping in, yes, but it also softens anxiety, lowers evening restlessness, and gives the body one last easy stretch before rest. I think better when I end the day kindly, Midge says. It's not just the house that settles, it's me. Her home no longer holds piles of tomorrow. It holds peace, and that peace carries her to bed without the hum of unfinished things. Would you try a farewell walk tonight? Maybe you turn off the lights a little slower, straighten the table gently, let gratitude guide your steps. And when you reach your bed, perhaps you'll feel it too, that sweet sense of completion that says, today can rest now. And so can you. Habit 3. The Purpose Shelf Rule. Grandma Midge says clutter doesn't start with too much stuff, it starts with confusion. When a space doesn't know what it's for, it fills itself, she likes to say, a wry smile tugging at her mouth. That's how she discovered her purpose shelf rule. Every shelf, table, or countertop in her home has a single, clear purpose. The moment a surface starts collecting odds and ends, she knows it's lost its identity, and she steps in to give it back. "If my shelves know who they are," she says, "my home knows what peace feels like." It started the year she downsized from the old family house to her smaller bungalow. She remembers standing in her new kitchen, the counters already crowding with mail, keys, a phone charger, a pile of coupons, and an abandoned teacup. "I had just unpacked, and already I could feel the mess sneaking back," she recalls. That's when she realized every surface needed a job, not a dumping ground, but a defined space with purpose. So she started naming them. The left counter became her morning station, holding only her kettle, tea tin, and favorite mug. The shelf by the window became her memory space, a place for 3 framed photos and a small vase of flowers. The tiny table by her front door became her landing pad, where she keeps only her keys and mail tray, nothing else. The result was almost immediate. Each area began to feel intentional, cared for, and calmer. No more wandering piles of things with nowhere to go. No more chaos creeping in when her energy dipped. "When you live alone, it's easy for a little mess to turn into a mountain," she says. "But if every shelf knows its purpose, you don't have to think about cleaning, the order keeps itself." The rule gives her gentle structure, especially on low-energy days when bending, lifting, or long tidying sessions are too much. She can walk through her home, glance at a space, and instantly know what belongs there and what doesn't. That awareness keeps her home manageable, even when her body tires. There's also comfort in the familiarity of it. Her shelves have become like old friends, each one distinct, dependable, easy to tend. The tea shelf greets her each morning. The bookshelf by her chair waits for her in the afternoon sun. The little shelf in her bedroom holds her reading glasses, a hand cream, and a single candle she lights when the evening feels quiet. Nothing more, nothing less. She says it keeps her grounded, like her home and her mind breathe at the same pace. "When the world outside feels messy, my shelves remind me that I can still choose peace right here." The purpose shelf rule isn't just about decluttering, it's about creating clarity. It teaches you to assign intention before things accumulate. When she visits her friends, Midge often notices their kitchen islands or side tables buried under mixed things, half bills, half keepsakes, a bit of everything and nothing at once. She never judges, but she gently says, "Give your space a name. Once you name it, you'll treat it with respect." And she's right. Once you decide that a shelf is for plants, you stop dropping the mail there. When you declare the table for family photos, it stays sacred. Purpose creates boundaries, and boundaries invite calm. For older adults, this simple mindset keeps the home from spiraling into overwhelm. You don't need to organize everything, you just need to give every surface an identity. Start small, Midge suggests. Pick one shelf, one table, one corner. Ask it who it wants to be. That small moment of attention is how order begins. Which surface in your home could you give a purpose this week? Habit 4. The Graceful Pause Drawer. Among all of Grandma Midge's habits, this one is her most tender, the one she calls her Graceful Pause Drawer. It isn't for storage or hiding things away. It's a small drawer in the corner of her bedroom dresser that she uses as a safe holding space for decisions she's not yet ready to make. When she comes across something she can't quite let go of, a scarf from her late sister, a recipe card in her mother's handwriting, or a small trinket that carries more memory than purpose, she doesn't force herself to decide right away. Instead, she places it gently into the drawer, closes it, and says, "You can rest here for a while." She gives each item 1 month. After that, she opens the drawer and checks in with her heart. If she hasn't thought about the item, it goes. If she still feels a tug, it stays, guilt-free. She started this ritual after realizing how much pressure clutter creates, not from the objects themselves, but from the emotions attached to them. "So many of us aren't holding on to things," she says softly, "we're holding on to feelings." The drawer became her way of showing herself kindness during that process. It removed the rush, the guilt, and the all-or-nothing mindset that often leaves older adults overwhelmed. "I don't rush my heart," she says. "Even letting go deserves grace." That single idea changed how she decluttered forever. Instead of viewing it as a task, it became an act of self-compassion, a dialogue between her memories and her present self. Each month, she revisits the drawer as if checking on old friends. Sometimes, she laughs at what she once thought she couldn't part with, like the faded scarf she eventually donated to a thrift shop. Other times, she smiles and decides to keep something because it still brings comfort. "It's not about proving I can let go," she says, "it's about trusting when I'm truly ready." The drawer gives her that trust, a quiet bridge between holding on and moving forward. What makes this habit so powerful is that it recognizes something most decluttering advice misses: emotional timing. Seniors, especially, live among decades of keepsakes that hold family stories, losses, and love. Forcing fast decisions can feel cruel. But by creating a graceful pause drawer, Midge turned that emotional weight into something gentle and manageable. It allows her to sort memories without erasing them. "You can't rush through sentiment," she says. "Some things need one last season before they can leave." This drawer also keeps her home peaceful. By containing hesitation to one small space, she prevents indecision from spilling across the house. There are no half-filled boxes or lingering piles of maybe. The rest of her home remains calm, clear, and steady. "It's amazing," she says, "how one drawer of uncertainty can protect every other room from chaos." For her, it's not about perfection. It's about permission to let the heart catch up to what the hands can do. And when she finally lets an item go, she does it with ceremony. Sometimes she writes a note, a thank you for the memories. Sometimes she snaps a quick photo to keep the feeling without the object. Other times, she simply smiles and whispers, "You served your time." The graceful pause drawer reminds her that every item, like every season, has its moment. Some stay, some go, but all are on it. For older adults trying to declutter without overwhelm, this is a beautiful middle ground, not all or nothing, but gentle, human pacing. What could you put in your graceful pause drawer this month? Maybe an old letter, a forgotten trinket, or a small someday item waiting for peace. Give it time, give it grace, and see what your heart decides when the month is through. Next, Grandma brings back a rule so powerful, it changes how you see every keepsake you own. Habit 5. The 3 generations rule. When Grandma Midge decides what stays and what goes, she uses a question that stops her every time. Will this matter to someone 3 generations from now? It's not meant to be sentimental, it's meant to be honest. She learned it one quiet afternoon while sorting through an old cedar chest that had belonged to her mother. Inside were dozens of little things: ribbons, birthday cards, buttons, and postcards from long-forgotten cousins. Each one once mattered to someone, but as she touched them, she realized she didn't know their stories anymore. "It hit me then," she says softly. "If I don't know what these meant, how will anyone else?" That was the beginning of her 3 generations rule. Now, before she decides to keep something, she imagines her granddaughter, her great-grandchild, and the next generation after that. If she can picture them understanding the meaning, learning something from it, or feeling connected because of it, it stays. If not, she thanks it for its time and lets it go. "I'm not saving things," she says, "I'm saving meaning." That question turned decluttering into storytelling, a process of curating her life instead of clinging to it. She doesn't just keep an object, she keeps the story that breathes life into it. When she comes across a photo, she labels it in clear handwriting, names, dates, small details like Thanksgiving 1988, the year of the burnt pie. When she finds her husband's old pocket watch, she writes a short note about the day he received it and tucks it inside the box. These small acts give her keepsakes life beyond her own memory. "It's not enough that I remember," she says. "I want them to remember why it mattered." In this way, her 3 generations rule isn't just about organizing things, it's about passing down stories that would otherwise fade into mystery. The rule has also made letting go easier. It gives her clarity when nostalgia clouds her judgment. When she holds an item she once loved but knows won't hold meaning for anyone else, she releases it without guilt. "I can love it without keeping it," she says. "Its purpose might have been only for my season." That mindset has freed her from years of quiet pressure, the pressure to save, to preserve, to hold on just in case. She's replaced that with intention. Her shelves are lighter, but her legacy feels fuller. Each week, she sets aside 10 minutes to walk through her home with that question in mind. Some days she finds nothing to change. Other days, she discovers one small thing that's ready to move on. A knick-knack she no longer notices, a book she's already passed along in spirit. For every item she keeps, she makes sure it earns its place by telling a story someone else could continue. That's how you make sure your home outlives you, she says. Not through things, through meaning. What's remarkable is how much joy this practice has brought her family. Her granddaughter loves reading the little notes tucked behind photos. Her son says it feels like walking through a living family album whenever he visits. And for Midge, that's the whole point, not to leave behind a burden of boxes, but a trail of connection. If you could pass one item to your grandchildren today, she asks with a smile, what would it be? For her, it might be her recipe book with her handwritten notes or the patchwork quilt her mother started and she finished. But the real inheritance, she says, isn't the thing itself. It's the care you take to decide what truly matters, and the love you leave stitched between the choices. Habit 6. Repair or pass. No maybe later box. Grandma Midge laughs whenever someone mentions their maybe later box. There's no later, she says, shaking her head with that knowing smile. There's now, fix it, pass it, or bless it goodbye. For her, those three choices are the heart of a peaceful home. Years ago, she had her own collection of someday items, a clock that no longer ticked, a lamp missing a shade, a sweater waiting for a new button. The pile lived quietly in her hallway closet, growing a little each season, full of things she planned to deal with when she had more time, more help, or more energy. But the truth, she admits, is that the pile wasn't waiting for her, it was weighing her down. Every time I opened that closet, I saw my own procrastination staring back at me. One Saturday morning, she decided she'd had enough. She pulled everything out, sat on the floor, and made 3 piles: fix, pass, or release. The fix pile went on her kitchen table, the pass pile into a donation bin, and the release pile, the things beyond repair, she let go of with gratitude. It wasn't about getting rid of stuff, she says. It was about keeping promises to myself. I was tired of living in maybe. From that moment, she vowed that nothing in her house would live in limbo again. If it could be repaired, she'd do it or call someone who could. If it still had value, she'd find it a new home. And if neither applied, she'd let it rest. That mindset became the spark behind her favorite community ritual, her monthly fix and sip. On the first Saturday of every month, she invites a few friends and neighbors over for coffee, laughter, and small repairs. The living room becomes a workshop of gentle industry. Someone sewing a torn hem, another gluing a loose table leg, someone else polishing old jewelry to give to their granddaughter. It's not about perfection, she says, pouring coffee into mismatched mugs. It's about giving things, and ourselves, a second chance. The laughter often drowns out the sound of scissors and screwdrivers, but that's the point. Repairing together turns what could be a lonely chore into companionship, and at the end of each gathering, every person takes home one less broken thing and one lighter heart. For seniors, the repair or pass habit is more than practical, it's empowering. It turns hesitation into action. Instead of boxes of 1 days, there's motion, progress, completion. Midge says that once she cleared her maybe later closet, she noticed how much calmer she felt. The visual clutter was gone, but so was the mental clutter, the nagging list of unfinished tasks. It's funny, she says, how a broken lamp can make your mind feel messy, too. Now, when something breaks, she makes a decision right away. She doesn't wait for a perfect moment or perfect health. She chooses. That small act keeps her life in flow. Her rule is simple: if it can be fixed within a week, she fixes it. If not, it goes to someone else who can use it. And if it's neither useful nor meaningful, she blesses it goodbye. That final gesture, a quiet thank you, turns release into peace. You don't need to throw everything out, she says. You just need to stop keeping what's waiting for your energy. The result is a home where nothing lingers unfinished, nothing steals attention that could be spent living. When asked what the real secret of her tidy life is, Midge just laughs. I don't keep maybe later. I live in now. Her house reflects that: calm, light, free of piles that whisper of delay. Each corner hums with purpose, each item either serving or gone. So she leans back in her chair, sips her coffee, and says, "Go on, open that box. What's sitting in your maybe later pile right now? Pick one thing. Fix it, pass it, or bless it goodbye." And as she chuckles, you can almost feel the relief of 1,000 small decisions done with grace, and no more maybes at all. Habit 7. The legacy conversation, once a year. Every spring, when the azaleas bloom outside her window and the house smells faintly of lemon polish, Grandma Midge hosts what her family calls the legacy lunch. It's not fancy, just her favorite roast chicken, her daughter's salad, and her grandson's pie, but it's the most meaningful meal of the year. The table isn't set with fine china or perfection. It's set with stories. This is the day when Midge invites her family to gather, not to talk about possessions, but about what will one day matter most, the memories, not the things. "I don't want them guessing when I'm gone," she says with a warm smile. "I want them remembering while I'm here." The tradition began years ago when Midge helped her mother downsize after a health scare. Sorting through a lifetime of belongings, she realized how heartbreaking it is to make those decisions without the stories behind them. "Mom had so many things we didn't understand," she recalls. "We were afraid to let anything go, just in case it was important." After that, she decided her own family would never be left wondering. So she started the legacy lunch, an afternoon to talk about meaning while laughter and comfort still filled the room. Each year, everyone brings a memory to share and chooses one item from Midge's home to carry forward. Her grandson, who spent summers learning chess at her kitchen table, claimed her old wooden set, worn soft at the corners. Her daughter took a handwritten recipe card, smudged with flour from decades of Sunday mornings. Her granddaughter chose a small glass vase because, as she said, it's the one that's always had flowers in it. Midge calls these living inheritances. She says, "This way, my stories keep living in someone else's hands." The beauty of this ritual isn't in the giving, it's in the talking. The stories flow like tea being poured, one memory sparking another. Laughter drifts through the house as each object becomes a bridge to the past. They don't talk about value or ownership, but about connection. Midge says the magic is how it turns the idea of legacy from something heavy into something joyful. "We wait too long to have these talks," she says. "By the time we're ready, sometimes the people aren't." The legacy lunch ensures that the conversation never comes too late. It also brings surprising peace. For older adults, this yearly ritual can ease the quiet anxiety about what will happen to their things, the pieces of life that carry emotion. Instead of avoiding it, Midge turns it into celebration. Each spring, she feels lighter knowing that the things she loves already have new homes waiting, their stories told and treasured. "Nothing feels like a burden anymore," she says. "I see it as sharing the joy while I can still see their faces light up." For her family, it's more than a tradition, it's a lesson. It teaches them that legacy isn't about holding on, it's about passing forward. The laughter, the love, and the meaning become part of the inheritance. After every lunch, Midge writes a small note to herself. The memories were shared. The love is alive. Then she tucks it in a drawer until next year, when the blooms return and the stories begin again. So she asks, with her gentle, teasing grin, "Who would you invite to your own legacy lunch this year?" Because in the end, legacy isn't what we leave behind, it's what we give while we're still here to see it received. "I used to think letting go meant losing," Grandma Midge says softly, her voice carrying that mix of strength and tenderness that only time can teach. "But now I know it means I can finally live lighter. My home feels like me again, simple, open, and alive. I don't wake up to piles anymore. I wake up to peace." Her words settle with the kind of quiet truth that lingers. These aren't just cleaning habits. They are love stories, between memory and peace, between what stays and what's ready to go. Each small choice she's made has been an act of kindness toward herself. Each thing she's released has made room for something better, more laughter, more movement, more ease. "I didn't lose anything," she says with a smile. "I just gave space for life to breathe again." For Grandma Midge, and for every one of us reaching for calm in a noisy world, these gentle habits aren't about things at all. They're about care. They're about respect for the life we still have to live. Because the less you carry, the more your home can hold what truly matters. Less clutter means more energy. Less noise means more connection. Less of what fades means more of what stays. And as we grow older, that balance of space, of story, of heart, becomes its own kind of freedom. So if this video brought you even a small moment of calm or comfort, take a second to share it forward. Tap like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, but most importantly, hit that hype button. It's YouTube's way of helping messages like this reach more seniors who deserve to feel that same peace. Remember, scroll down, swipe left on the comment preview carousel, tap hype, choose your points, and you're done. You get 3 free hypes every week, and every single one helps lift this message higher so more people over 60 can find our growing circle of warmth and wisdom. And before you go, take a deep breath. Look around your space. Find one small thing that no longer carries the weight it used to. Let it go, not out of loss, but out of love for what you're making room for next. You've lived a lifetime collecting memories, now it's time to collect peace. Because home isn't just where life happens. It's where your spirit rests. And when that space feels light, your heart does too. Thanks for being here, friends. You are the reason this community feels like family, a place where aging is celebrated, not feared, where change is gentle, not rushed, and where every story reminds us that peace is something we can still create, one calm home at a time.